Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Thanks for joining today's session. This is day 2 of our 7 days of Microsoft Excel Automation Challenge. It's a series that's going to last for 7 days. In case you did not watch the first video, I really encourage you to go back there and watch that. It's very important as we are building this step by step. But nonetheless, should you want to check this first, should you want to watch this video first before going back to day 1, is also allowed. It's not that bad. But I will really be happy if you can go through all the days and perform the task, during your own leisure. So why exactly do we emphasize on learning Excel automation, at least using simple Excel functions, formulas in Excel? It's important because more and more professionals are concentrating on on latest tools like maybe SQL, Python, or some other things, while there are still a lot of functionalities that they are failed to appreciate in Excel. So you see even senior finance professionals, senior accountants repeating the same process of producing a report every week, every month. Whereas you can do it, you can automate everything at once, and then just have to do 1 or 2 changes and update, and you have your report for the next month. You don't have to repeat the same thing over and over again. So that is our objective for putting together this program, and I hope you're going to appreciate it by the end of the 7 days. So today, we'll be concentrating on conditional statements. Conditional statement is saying that if a particular condition is met, return a particular result. But if that condition is not met, you should return a different set of results or a different result. So that is what this boy is trying to illustrate or explain. If Cliff is thirsty, then she drinks water. But what if she's not thirsty? That means the condition is not met. She does something else. She either stay without drinking or she eats. So she could do any other parameter that you pass into it. But this is a condition. For instance, the condition is that if he is a university student, then he is eligible for financial support. But if he is not a university student, then he's not eligible. So that is just what this if statement is talking about. And these are the list of if statements that we'll be talking about today. We have the if function, which is just the if, as I explained earlier, when you pass a condition, if the condition is not met, it should return you this, otherwise return me something else. So that's just what that is talking about. You can also combine if function with and or. And or, they are also different set of functions within Excel, but they are usually used together or in combination with the if statement. And means that 2 conditions are passed into our if function, and it is until these 2 conditions are met before a result could be returned, or before a specific result could be returned. But if those 2 conditions are not met, then a different result should be returned. So what this is emphasizing is that 2 conditions must be met. But for the or function, 2 conditions are supplied, but as long as one of them is met, then the condition is satisfied. So if is a university student, if we are supplying 2 conditions, university student and also is a boy. So if he's a boy or a university student, then he meets the criteria, or he meets the eligibility criteria for financial support. As long as he's either a boy or a university student, then he meets the condition, or he satisfied the criteria. But one of them was satisfied before our result could be returned. But as long as the 2 of them could also be satisfied, or one of them could be satisfied, as long as one is satisfied, then it's okay. So we also have our sum if to sum within a range based on the criteria that is passed into it. we have our if error and if NA. These are very powerful functions in Excel for handling errors. For instance, now your Excel is returning to you NA or is returning ref. And this kind of things are not good for reporting purposes. So you have to find a way to remove the ref as long as you know that the formula you've supplied is correct. So you can wrap that formula up with if error. So if you are seeing that kind of NA or ref, then it should return you 0 or return you something else entirely. So we also have the count if function in Excel. Count if you only count based on a particular criteria within, it will count value within a range based on the criteria that is supplied. So you already know me. My name is Segun Adewumi. I'm the lead technical consultant at Wole Global Consult. Right now, I mean, these are my contact information in case you want to reach out to me. So I'm going to switch over to Microsoft Excel now so that we can concentrate on the task of today. So what is the task of today? Take the registration data and transform it into the table in the top left. This is a table in the top left. We are talking about the fund ticker, first registration date, number of registrations, and latest registration country. And how are we going to get that? Or how are we going to get those? We have to come to these we have to come to our data sets. We have data for the registration dates, data for the registration country, that is where the country where the registration was done. And we have this ISIN that relates to the assets that was invested into. So that is what that means. And the first thing we're going to be doing is to return the first registration date for AMAL, for CBDX, for CLMA, for DIGI, and for each category of assets, we have to return the first date that the registration for them was carried out. So as I explained earlier, you should have been thinking of the right formula or the right function to use now. So if you're thinking is min if, then you are correct because it's actually min if. Min if will return the least or the smallest value within a range, and it can also work with dates. You can return the minimum of a date and you can return the maximum of a date. You can return the minimum of a number or a set of numbers, and you can return the maximum of a set of number. So we're going to say min ifs. So it's asking us for what is the range within which we want to return the minimum dates, or what is the range within which we want to return the minimum value. So we'll come to the registrations. We highlight everything just as we did in the first video, and you have to reference that range of data. That is, you have to fix the range of data so that it doesn't shift. That is why we have this $ in front of our rows and in front of our column, that is column A. So the way you do that is by pressing F4. So it depends on your kind of keyboard. You might need to press function before you press F4. So the next requirement is, what is the criteria range? The criteria that we want to use to return the list date, where is the range? So we can find the criteria within this range. So you also highlight everything and you press your F4. Now the last criteria that is asking is, where is the criteria exactly? So we have to go back to the task worksheet, and the criteria is somewhere here, which is this ISIN. So in this case, we want to fix only the column. We want to fix the column while we allow the row to move downwards. So now, in this situation, we only need one criteria to be passed into our min ifs formula. So in case you have other conditions to be satisfied, then you can then go. It's asking you again for what is the criteria range 2, then the criteria 2, criteria range 3, as many conditions that must be satisfied before whatever you want to return must be returned. You have to impute it here. But in this situation, we only have one criteria that we are supplying into the min ifs formula. That is why it is called min ifs. Okay, fine. So now it's returning for us the 11th of September 2020 as the minimum date, that the least date for this AMAL fund. And the AMAL fund has the same, I mean, it also corresponds to this particular ISIN number. So we have used this ISIN number, which you can find here, to return the values. Interesting. So now let's just quickly do a very short verification to be sure that what we've done is correct. So I'm going to copy that ISIN number that we just used, and I'm going to sort and filter. I'm going to sort by this ISIN number. So let's just remove everything and then go to this ISIN number. Okay, it's right here. So let's try to highball and check the minimum dates in all these. So if you go through, you will realize that the minimum date is here, which is the 11th of September 2020. So if you check through, we don't have any date lower than that. No other date is lower than that. So that is just to verify that the formula we use is correct and is working as we wanted it to. So fine. So from here, we can then take everything down. And we have our list of dates for each categories of assets. Or another alternative way to copy down is you can just highlight everything and press your Ctrl D. So it will fill everything down. Ctrl D fills downward, Ctrl R fills to the right. So I want to, at this point, I want to introduce you to cell naming. I think we did something like that in the previous video, but not that elaborate. But this time around, I want to really introduce you to the concept of cell naming. These are our registration dates. Instead of having to fix everything with F4, all this painful process, we want to make it even more dynamic. We want to make it even more automated. So what you're going to do is that highlight the whole data, the whole column. Okay, let me just quickly revise that in case you were not in our last class. So let's say I have 365 here, which is my what? Months in a year. And this 365 is found on cell E364. And you can see that cell name here. That means that each of the cells in our Excel has a name. And the name for this particular cell is E364. But now we want to change that name. We want to give it a name that we can easily remember. So you just come here and then change the name to what? This is supposed to be days in a year. Pardon? I beg your pardon. Days in a year. So we come here, then we rename these as days underscore IN underscore here. So you can name it anything you want, and it's not compulsory you have to use the underscore. But in case you want to write something like this, you cannot leave a space in between. So that is where the underscore is useful to bring everything together. So after you've renamed it, just press your enter. Now you can call on that particular function because you've literally created a function that is reusable anywhere. So you can just say days in a year, and this is out for you. It's out. You can then say maybe you are trying to perform particular analysis. You can say 2 million 123 divided by days in a year. Then you have your answer. So that is easily callable. But if you now want to delete that cell naming that you've done, you come to your formulas, you come to name manager. So you can see all the cell naming that I have done in the past. And in fact, in this situation, I want to delete everything. So you delete all the cell namings. So now everything is gone. And now you can see that the name has been returned to E364. So the same logic is what we want to use here. Highlight everything, the whole column. Instead of naming a single cell, you can also name a whole column. Then you come here, you name this column as reg, that is for the registration data, underscore dates. That is the name we are giving to this entire selected column. This selected range of data, range of dates, we are renaming everything to what? Name reg underscore dates. Fine. So for the country, we also do the same thing. We rename it to what? Reg underscore what? Country. We press enter. For the ISIN, we do the same thing. We rename it to what? Reg underscore ISIN. Then you press OK. So in case you want to call for that cell name, you can just press your equals to and say, let's check for reg underscore dates, reg underscore dates. So when you start typing, IntelliSense will help you to bring the other things out. But instead of going through these routes, in case you cannot even remember the name at all, you can press your F3. F3 will bring out the list of cell names that you have within your workbook. For instance, I can then reference my reg underscore country and then click OK and use it for whatever purpose I want to use it for. All right, now let's go back to what we did initially and take this out. I want us to be more dynamic. We use a cell referencing in the last episode, but today we're going to be using only the cell naming. So we're going to say min ifs. What is the minimum range? You should know that the range that we are trying to return the minimum value is the dates. Now you can just say reg underscore dates. And also, it's asking us for the criteria range. And if you remember the last exercise we did, the criteria range is what? Is the list of ISIN numbers. So we can say reg underscore ISIN. And it's now asking for the criteria, actually. So we can just come here and then do our normal cell referencing by allowing the rows to move, but fixing the column. And then we return the same thing as what we returned the other time, which is the 11th of September, 2022. And we can then fill downward. I hope you understand this. Now we move to the next task, which is the number of registrations. The number of registration that correspond to this particular ISIN. That is what we want to bring back. So initially we would have done, because what we're going to use now, the function we're going to use, as you might have imagined, is a COUNTIF function. The COUNTIF will count the number of registration based on this ISIN, and we're going to count the ISIN numbers this time around. So we're going to say COUNTIF. Ordinarily would have gone to, right now it's made simple. We're only going to pass two requirements into our COUNTIF function. It's asking us for the range. And as I told you earlier, we're going to count the ISIN. For instance, let me just go back to the data set. You can see that we have different ISIN number, but we want to count how many times this ISIN exists in this particular range. How many times this one exists in this particular range. That is what we are trying to achieve here. So we're going to say COUNTIF. Where is the range of data? Is the reg underscore ISIN. And what is the criteria? We're going to go back to our ISIN and then fix the column but allow the rows to move. And then we have these as 13. So we can actually go and eyeball that once again, just the way we confirmed the previous one. We want to confirm this first one. We come here. What is ready? Okay. Then we can unselect other ones, then go back to, let's scroll down. Okay, this is what we're looking for. It must give us 13 if we are correct. So when you highlight everything, it's saying it's 13. So to show you that the formula is working effectively. So I'm going to clear the filter now. So you can see that our formula or our function is working, and we can then fill downward with Control D. Fine. So this last part is a bit technical, and I want to pay a lot of attention here. So we want to return the latest registration date, the latest registration country. That means registration have been done in different countries, but which country was the last registration made? That's exactly what we want to do here. In which country was the last registration made? So when we come back to our results set, we want to return the particular country where the last registration was made. And how can we get the latest country? We have to use the latest registration date. By the time we use the latest registration date, we can then use that as a reference to return the latest registration country. Let me try to explain to you. First, we have to return the latest, and it's latest simply means the maximum registration date. So we're going to use a max if. Okay, let's say to return latest registration dates. So we have to use what? Max if function. So let's just assume we have a date. Let's say 20, let's just say, okay, let's copy these dates and put it here. Let's put it here like that. So we're not going to say, we're going to use our index match function. So we're going to say index, and you know the first thing index we ask you is, where is your array? You understand? So the array we want to return is the country array. So index is now going to ask you what is the row number. Then you're going to use your match function. And you remember the match function, the first thing we ask you is, what is your lookup value? Your lookup value will be that your latest registration date that you've got using your max function, your max if function. So you can say the lookup value will be 11 September 2020. So it now asks for the lookup array. Then the lookup array is you're going to be looking for it in the dates array. And finally, it's going to ask you for what kind of match type do you want? You want a perfect match. And this is going to return for you the latest registration country. Latest registration country. And here we're using what? The max if function. Max ifs. I hope you understand this explanation, because that is the same thing we're going to do very quickly now. So the first thing we're going to return, I want us to approach it in a modular way, like step by step. Let's first return the latest registration date using our max ifs function. We're going to say max ifs is asking for the max range. So since we want to return, the dates, we're going to use we're going to go to the dates. Okay, we don't even have to go there. We can say max ifs. What is the range? We can say reg underscore dates. So what is the criteria that we want to use? Automatically it's going to be our ISIN number. It's a reg underscore ISIN. And it's now asking for where is the criteria. So the ISIN numbers that we want to use as criteria, they're here. You can just say, you also have to fix the column but allow the rows to move. So now it has returned us the maximum registration date. And you can go ahead and confirm. I'm not going to confirm this for you, but when you're trying to work on your own project, just go ahead, confirm, and be sure that it has returned you 17th of February 2022. So this maximum registration date, we can fill downward, and we get our maximum registration date for each of the assets invested into. Now, we are not done. So this maximum registration date is what we're going to pass into our match function. Now, just be patient with me and make sure you try to understand this. So to return the maximum registration country, we will use our index function. Index is asking us for the array where we can have the countries. So the array is within the country column. So we're just going to say reg underscore country. And then it's now asking, the next requirement is a row number. So to make it dynamic, we're using the match function to return the row number. So what criteria do we want to use? We want to use the date. As I have it here, within our match, the first thing I passed was the date before I could pass the date range. Now, we're going to pass the dates, which we have obtained using our maxIf function. And then we pass in what? We pass in the date, the lookup array, which is a date array. And that will be our reg underscore dates. After passing in our reg underscore date, which is a lookup array, we're going to, is now asking for what kind of match. Usually is always the exact match I use. I've never used less than or greater than match before. So is the exact match. Then you close your your match function, and you close your index function, and it should return you the maximum, the latest registration days, which you can use to fill downward. I hope you understand this. We can verify, but I want to walk through this process one more time so that you really understand everything. So we want to return the latest registration dates. We've been having registration, the latest registration country, we've been having registration since January to December. So where did we carry out the last registration within a particular date range or within a particular year? When did we carry out the last registration and which country? So that is exactly what we want to achieve. So it is important you understand the objective before attempting to use a function in Excel. So now, if we want to return the latest registration country, we first need to identify the date in which we carried out the latest registration. That is how we have used our maxIf function to return the latest registration date. Now, passing this latest registration date into our index match function. First, in using our index match, index is going to ask us, where do you want to return the latest registration country from? So we have the column. The column is A. We want to return it from this column B, which corresponds with our country, and we have renamed it as reg underscore country. So that's what we're going to pass into this first requirement. The next requirement of index is, what is the row number? And instead of just hard coding the row number, we should have just hard coded maybe row 2. We just type 2 into it. But instead of hard coding that, we are using this match function. And match is asking us, what is the maximum date? We are passing it into it, within which range? Within the date range, which is a date column, and then we want a perfect match. So let's go over it again. So the first thing we're going to return is our latest registration dates, which is, we're going to use our maxIf function. MaxIf is asking us for the maximum range, which is the reg underscore dates. It's asking us for which criteria should we use to return, where is the range of criteria that we're going to use to return the maximum range? We are using reg underscore ISIN. And where is the criteria exactly? This one is saying criteria range. The last one is saying criteria. So we can just come here and select our ISIN. So we fix the column. Then we return our 17th of February, 2022. So this is what we are now going to pass into our match function. So I want to shift this a little bit so that I can create room to write my index function. So I have index. Index is asking me for the array that I want to return from. I want to return from the reg underscore country. And now it's asking me for the row number. So as I told you that instead of hard coding, we can just use the match function. The match is asking us, what should I look up? What should I look up for? We want to look up for the date. And we've already used this formula to derive the date we need. So we're just going to pass that formula into it because it represents our dates. And now it's asking which array am I going to return the date from? Return it from the date array, which is this reg underscore date. And finally, what kind of match? We want perfect match. And then we can close the match function and close the index function. So that is it. You can just take it down and use Control D to fill it downward. So now we've been able to explain how to use the min if function, the max if function, or the index and match function all over again. And we have applied it in this our exercise. So I will just delete all these because we no longer need them. Now you can just go ahead and practice this on your own and make sure you get it. You may have to go over the video over and over again. And in case you have any problems, do not hesitate to let me know. You can contact me on YouTube or on LinkedIn or using my telephone number, and I'll be very happy to respond to your query as soon as possible. So we're going to end today's video here, and watch out for the day 3. It could come anytime, it could come sooner than later, and it could come maybe next week. Thank you very much for watching, and God bless you. Bye.